It's Dee Dee on the spot.
Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Katie Lee on the podcast. She's an IFBB Pro from the Women's Physique Division, coming to us all the way from Maryland. Katie, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of backstory of what got you into fitness? What was kind of your inspiration for doing bodybuilding?
So bodybuilding came to me after college in 2010. I graduated and my degree's in psychology, so there was not much purpose and direction at that time in my life. So I joined a gym behind my house, WSC, now no longer there. But I did meet my coach, who's still my coach now, and a pro bodybuilder there. And they both saw incredible potential in me. So they were like, hey, let's start doing this. You'll love it or hate it. I ended up loving it. Completely changed my life. So many amazing things happened in my life mentally, and then of course physically came after.
What was the hardest thing for you starting out? Was it the constant training? Was it the nutrition?
It was the nutrition. I never really I was never overweight. Let's say I was just kind of a normal looking girl. And I wasn't eating horrible foods, but I was drinking and I wasn't paying attention to what I was eating. I wasn't following any type of structured nutrition plan. You try to eat vegetables and fruits like everybody told you at that time, but nothing was ever strict. So when I started competing, I realized, one, the power of food, like how people become so just, indulged in it and they can't say no. And at that point in my life, I'm like, wow, like I can't have this cookie right now. Like it was a crazy psychological change for me to not be able to have things that I wanted, because you had an end goal and, you can't cheat, you can't do this. So really, it was the nutrition. I mean, training, I've always been an athlete. I just, knew how to train and knew how to push myself. But the nutrition and training together was what gives you results. So it was probably the nutrition was more harder for me than training. I mean, I just love working out, period.
How early was it that you found your body responded? I mean, some people find like a few months, some people take a few weeks. Was yours a pretty quick response?
I think I had a pretty good foundation just from playing sports growing up. Basketball was really mainly my sport. But I just, it took off for me. Like after I started drinking, I think I really started to see my body change because I wasn't giving it that toxic type of stuff anymore. So I just kept training. And I'd say 3-4 months, I started seeing results and my body was transforming and changing. I was seeing muscles that I didn't know were there. And you're like, wow, once you start seeing the progress and results, you just get hooked, You're like, you want it more, you want to keep seeing them. And it just took off as a small addiction, I guess you could say, but a good addiction,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like my dad always says, there's so many addictions, but there's so many that are positive as well for all the bad addictions that there are too. They're such great for you. So when we're talking about the nutrition aspect, what was the hardest part nutrition-wise for you to sort of adapt to? Was it the constant eating? Because people don't realize when you're putting on that much muscle and that much weight, you have to be eating a lot more than you normally would have before you even started training.
Right, exactly. It was more of a structured, I was kind of just eating whenever I was hungry. It wasn't like a timely thing. Metabolism was not really something I had a grasp on. So when she's like, yeah, you're eating 6 meals a day. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking 6 meals, like, oh my God, I'm going to be fat, But you're eating 6 meals of good quality foods. It's not like you're eating 6 pizzas, you're eating, chicken, veggies, your fish. And then you realize, wow, like you start to get hungry after a while and you want to eat 6 meals because your metabolism is responding, which is a good sign. So I'm like, wow, I can't wait for my next meal. You're looking at the clock like, okay, I got 2 hours. Like you want to eat. So it was just getting more of the structured time frames. The portions are huge. What you're eating, when you're eating it. That was like a huge adjustment for me.
Yeah. When I started out, I'm nowhere near your level at all. I'm just doing my beginning weight training stuff. But yeah, just the metabolism, how it sped up, I never realized that I'd be eating so much more. It's definitely fascinating. What about you really think gave you that sort of drive to sort of keep going once you got started? Because a lot of people, when they hit that plateau where they stop losing their beginning gains, where everyone who doesn't know your beginning gains is when your body responds best of all when you first get started, and then you won't be able to maintain really that progression of how much you change that quickly. How did you deal with that mentally?
Well, it was more so just knowing what I was capable of doing. I knew my potential and I had a good support behind me that's like, listen, if you keep going, you're going to be something great, And then when I started hearing people become inspired from what I was doing. Like, wow, I've seen so much progress in you. I've seen so much changes. Like, that clicked in my head, like, wow, like, this is so much more powerful than I ever thought. Like, there are people now that are watching me that I didn't even know were watching. You know, they're looking at me in the gym and they're like, yeah, I saw you 6 months ago. Now I see you again. Crazy progress. Like, all that kept me going. You know, at that point, I realized, like, it wasn't really about me anymore. It was about the people around me and the people that are looking up to you to say, Katie can do this. She transformed her life, you know. And again, I don't have some crazy story where I was 250 pounds and I came down to, you know, 150, 170, whatever I am. It's not a story like that, but that doesn't mean it's not a powerful story. Like, it changed me internally more than it did physically. So I learned so much more discipline. I learned healthier eating habits, and all that really just kept me going, because I'm like, this is what life is about. You know, it's about just holistic, healthy living, not necessarily everybody's got to be a bodybuilder. It's not, that's not it. What's it is making sure you're healthy internally and then externally. And that's what a lot of people don't realize, is that if they want to see results on the outside, you have to change what's going on inside. You have to change that metabolism. You have to get rid of the foods that you're eating. You have to stop drinking soda, smoking, you know, all that, cigarettes, that type of stuff. You have to get a grip on that. And then you're going to start to see the external changes. Like, they think it's the other way around. Like, oh, I'm just going to eat right and then boom, I'm going to have all these results. No, internally, you have to fix a lot of what's going on before you can start seeing external results. And for me, I would give every muscle away I had today if it meant that I got to keep what I gained in my mind, you know, and the discipline and just the focus. It was just incredible.
One of the big things that I love to talk about too when it comes to just helping you build muscle, and also one of the unseen things that not that many people talk about, we have a sleep specialist coming on next week all the way from London to come and talk about the importance of sleep. And most people, when they talk about bodybuilding, or when they talk about even just weight training, sleep is one of the most, if not the most important thing when it comes to, you know, just allowing your body to recover. How much sleep do you like to average a night?
Oh, sleep is one thing that I struggle with. I'll be honest. I try to get your 8 hours, you know, but I feel like my internal clock wakes me up. You know, I'm up at 7 just naturally. And I think that's just from years of bodybuilding. You know, you get up to do your cardio, you have to eat by a certain time. You can't sleep until 11, because then that means you're a meal behind. So I think my internal clock just kind of caught up and just said, Katie, you got to be up at 7. You got to get your cardio done. You got to eat by 8, like make sure everything's in order. But I will have, you know, nights where I don't get, you know, 8 hours. I'm maybe 6 or 7 just because I'm working late, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But just make sure everything else is on track. You know, if your sleep isn't the best, make sure you're still eating right. You're still exercising. You know, you're still feeding your mind with positivity. Like, we're not going to have everything perfect in life. You know, nobody's going to have every area of their life perfectly aligned. Right. It's just next day, just try to sleep better. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, try to get that extra hour in if you can, make up for it if you can. But yeah, it's one thing I struggle with, and I'm really trying to get a better grip on. And, you know, the quality of your sleep, you know, making sure you're in REM sleep, making sure your bed is comfortable enough for you to sleep right. You know, you wake up with aches and all that. That all matters, you know, and then it all boils down to what you're eating. You know, if you eat like crap during the day, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're going to sleep well, and I don't think you're going to perform well. So it's all just intertwined together.
So at what point when you started weightlifting did you all of a sudden realize, hey, I could actually like do this? I could actually become a bodybuilder. When was that?
I guess after my first show, I realized, like, I won my first show, which a lot of people don't get the opportunity to win their very first show. But I won the Gladiator Championship in Baltimore here. I won first in my class. So I went straight to nationals. Like, I was straight, into the national crowd. You know, the stakes are higher. You know, people come in better shape. And, like, it was very humbling to me in a lot of ways, because I'm like, wow, like, I won my first show. Sure, like, yeah, I got a trophy. But then I see these national level competitors and I'm like, wow, like, I need to work harder. Like, I have a lot more farther to go than I ever imagined, you know? So I would say after my first show, I'm like, wow, I think I have what it takes. And then actually the Arnold Amateur in 2014 was where I just clicked. Like, that's an international show. So there's girls coming from all over the world. And I took 4th out of 52 girls. And it really wasn't even my best shape. Like, I look back and I'm like, geez, I don't think I look that good, but they saw something in me. They said, really, the one thing that stood out the most about you on stage was your smile and your stage presence. Like, it just looked like you loved being up there. We loved your look. You know, the muscularity was going to come eventually, but 2014 Arnold Amateur was it for me. Like, I was like, wow, I hung with the best of the best in the world. You know what I mean? And it wasn't a pro Arnold, which I did, you know, later on, but I was like, all right, this is it. Like, I can do this. I know I have what it takes. And after then, it was just all uphill.
One of the huge things that I've also learned from talking to people that have done bodybuilding too is that the stage presence is one of the biggest things that you can have. And like you said, the smile, because a lot of people, they just think that you just go up there, you just pose, do a couple poses, and then you're fine. But there's so many different things to it than just that, where it's stage presence, it's making sure you do the right moves at the right time. Was that hard to, with your posing, was that hard to kind of perfect at first? Because I mean, it's a lot of like mind and muscle memory, kind of just with like any sport that you do. Was that a lot of just trial and error for you?
It was, yeah, a lot of trial and error, figuring out what poses work the best for you. You have to pick poses that make your body type look good. You know, some girls do their leg to the side, some of them do leg to the front. Like, it really all depends. So I think just doing show after show after show after show, you get comfortable up there. You know what I mean? You block out everybody else. It's just you and the judges. Like, over time, it just took constant practice, you know, and even to this day, posing is one of the hardest things to do. Like, I would work out and do hours of cardio if I had to. But posing, I work up the biggest sweat. It's the hardest. I get sore from it. Like, and that's if you're doing it the right way. You know, you're not half-assing it. Like, you're really hitting every pose hard. You're squeezing every muscle in your body at the same time, all while smiling, all while looking like you're not flexing when you really are flexing. That's the hard part. Like, you know what I mean? So a lot of people don't get that.
Do you know what the reason behind where they try to make it look like you're not flexing when you're actually flexing? Is it just because they want to make it look like it's natural, or what's the reason behind that?
Very true. You just don't want it to look like you're straining or, you know, you're holding your breath or anything like that. Like, they want it to look very appealing to the eye.
When you first put on that tanner for the first time, were you surprised at how much it made everything pop out?
Yes. Well, I love to be tan. Yeah. Like, I'm the whitest person ever, probably.
Same here.
But when I got that first coat, I'm like, wow. Like, from then on, I was like, I need to spray tan or something, because my muscles don't look the same. You know, like, you want them to look like that all the time, but in reality, they're not going to. But the first coat of tan, I was kind of hooked. I was like, oh, this looks so nice. Got that, you know, spray tan membership. You know, every month I can go get spray tan.
One of the big questions I like to ask most of the guests, and I have a lot of upcoming musicians and then also a lot of health and fitness people, is the thrill of performing live. What is it like for you when you're on stage? You get to show off all that hard work that you've went through hell the last few months going through prep to just everything's been down perfectly with your nutrition, your training. It's been just Iditarod. When you're finally able to show off all that hard work and dedication, what is that feeling like for you?
It was a thrill. It's adrenaline. You know, that adrenaline kicks in and that carries you over through your whole performance. Then when you get off, that adrenaline wears off and then you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. But that's just your adrenaline. You know, you're happy, and you know when you get up there, you're like, this is it. Like, I prepared 6 months for this moment. And you only get one chance. You can't go back and do it over again. As soon as those judges see you, that's it. You got to make the best of everything. And even if you forget a pose or you ruin your routine or something, you got to keep going. You can't stop and like look like you're confused and stuff, because then they're going to know. So it's really just a matter of just doing what you love. If you have a passion for it, it's going to show. You don't look forced. It doesn't look like you're trying too hard. It's more like it just came naturally to me, which I never would have thought in a million years I'd be in a sparkly bikini with a spray tan and all this makeup on stage, you know, pretty much half naked. You know, I never imagined it, but I look at it just, you know, another day in the office. I'm getting up there. I'm doing what I love. I'm sharing it with the world. And as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. I don't care about anything else, really. The placings will go your way. They might not go your way. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as you get up there with a smile and people are watching you. Like, you get off stage, whether you're first or last, they're like, wow, you looked incredible. And I'm super inspired. So I'm like, the placings don't matter at that point. That moment is really what mattered.
Yeah. So was it hard for you at first to get up on stage? Because, I mean, a lot of people, that is a really hard thing to do, especially when you're only dressed in, basically, like you said, you're half naked. Was that hard for you at first to get over, or was it one of those things where as soon as you got on stage, you're like, oh, this is great?
I will remember the first time I was sitting in my first show and you're behind the curtain and the lights are there and, like, I'm excited, I'm nervous, like all those type of things. But literally the second you turn the corner of that curtain and the lights hit you, it was like a switch that went off. Like, it was just showtime. And I got up there, did everything that I had to do. And then I got off stage and I'm like, I want to go do it again. Like, that was freaking awesome. You know what I mean? It was such a rush. It was such a thrill. You know, people are clapping for you, everything. And I really just block everything out. Like, it's like the crowd is just like a blurry cloud. the only thing you're looking at is the judges, because it's the only people that really you should care about at that moment, making sure you impress them and show them showcase your physique. So it was just, Katie, you got to do it. You got to do it that one time just to get over that first hump. And then every time you went on stage after that, it just got a little bit easier. The prep got harder, don't get me wrong, but the nervousness kind of subsided every show you got into.
So what is your favorite post-show cheat meal that you like to have after a show?
Post-show cheat meal. Oh dear. I'm a sweet person. I love sweets. So I really pack things in my bags for like right when I come off stage. I start drinking water because that's really an important thing. But then I get into, like the protein cookies, and then I'll have like, little chocolates and stuff like that. And then when we go out to restaurants, it's like, whatever. Bring me whatever, carbs and, desserts. And I love coffee too. So I'll go get like a Starbucks drink that like I haven't had for weeks and weeks. And it's awesome, and you just look even better the next day. Like you're like, wow, I could have looked like this on stage and I probably would have done better. Yeah. But, you don't want to mess with anything at that point. You just, stick to the plan and don't, go off course at all. But, you're so excited to go eat. Like I can't even explain, like nothing else matters in the world at that point. It's just you and the food.
Yeah. Probably the biggest question I like to ask people who have competed in shows is, most people, the general population doesn't understand that you have manipulated your body into looking basically the best that it can look, and that you're not going to be able to sustain that look, your show look, for a while, probably not even maybe a week at most, maybe afterwards is going to be sustainable. How do you deal with that mentally and emotionally and physically, also knowing that you're not going to look that good forever and that there is going to be a time when you're going to rebound? How does that work?
That was a difficult psychological adjustment just because I never saw my body in that good of shape before. So you're like, wow, I want to keep this, but it's just not healthy. And I got into this industry for the health aspect of it. So I don't want to continue to take it down an unhealthy route. I'd rather just, go back to the healthy living habits that I had in the first place. So really it was just learning to love your body in all forms, learning to love it when, like right now, I think I'm fluffy, which I joke about, but there's some truth to it. You know what I mean? Like there's truth to me feeling a little fluffy. Like I go from 175 pounds down to about 150 on stage, 148. So I lose almost 30 pounds, and that's a drastic amount of weight. I lose it in 16 weeks. It takes a lot of time, but it's really just loving your body in all forms. Learning that putting on a little extra fluff, quote unquote, is part of the process. You're not going to grow in that off season unless you put on a little fluff. Like you can't stay super lean and put on lean mass at the same time. Like those two don't work. You can't cut and bulk at the same time, which a lot of people want. They're like, oh, I want to be ripped and shredded. Oh, but I want to put on muscle. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm a good coach, but I haven't even mastered that yet. Like it doesn't, you just have to pick and choose your off season. Okay. You need to eat clean still, but just eat more of clean food. Just eat more healthy fats, a little more calories. You can have, a sushi date once a week if you want. Like, you know what I mean? Give your mind a break from the structured eating, because that's what frustrates you. You're like, oh my God, I have to eat. Like your whole life is just focused around the food. So you're like, I just want to break from that. Like just a break from the stress of having to prep food and then eat it and then cook. It's just, you need a break.
Just hearing you talk about it, it's really making my mind swirl and everything else. Like, yeah, you probably need a break from that. So one of the things I also like to ask is, when you are done with your show, knowing that in order to you're going to need to come back usually the next year a little bit in better shape, or you're going to need to tweak some things. How do you deal with that mentally, knowing that you, in this current or this recent prep, you gave everything you had, and knowing that for this current prep, you're going to need to give even more when it feels like you've done literally everything you could the previous prep? How do you deal with that as well, knowing that, hey, I'm going to have to work even harder maybe than I worked last prep when I really thought that I gave it my all this prep?
Yeah, that's the difficult part. I mean, every prep you would think, oh, here I go again. I'm used to this. I've done this before. No problem. It gets harder every time. Like, because you got to get back into the swing of things. You got to get back into the structured eating. You have to get back into, and the stakes are higher. You want a show, and then you do well in one show. You have to do better at the next show. You got to get to the Olympia, which is all of our goals. Like, it's hard. It's really hard to readjust yourself to say, okay, I came in super lean this show. Like, is it even possible to get leaner? I don't know. Maybe it's more cardio. Maybe it's stricter dieting. Maybe it's heavier lifting. Maybe it's more reps. Maybe, so you just have to tweak your program as you go to make sure that you're still responding. You're not still, eating whatever you want. You go back to eating what your coach at least tells you to eat. And then you just have to train harder. I mean, I can't put enough stress and emphasis on training hard, making sure intensity's up, volume's up, you're challenging yourself, you're taking your muscle to failure, that I feel is, it just works for me. That works. Just changing the training, making it more intense, making it, heavier weights or more cardio, like I said, whatever it is, just shock your body. Don't do the same old routine. Don't do the same old stuff. You got to come in a different look, which means you're going to have to do something different. And that's kind of how I look at it. You know what I mean? You look back at pictures, and then you see the progression each show, and really it's maturity of your body, doing show after show after show. Every show your body will look better because it understands the process. It understands what you're asking of it. I need to be leaner. And then you're putting on more muscle. So therefore, when you cut down again, you're going to have fuller muscle bellies, which is what we all want. Like, I think that's it for me.
So physique is a newish division when it comes. It's been around for a couple of years. Could you maybe explain to our audience what happened before physique? Because I know that there's a little bit of a controversy where they got rid of bodybuilding, or what was it? They got rid of heavyweight or lightweight stuff, and then they added just physique. What was the story behind that?
Yes. Well, female bodybuilding, the category itself, is now out of the Olympia, which a lot of people probably know by now. And they brought in women's physique to be, they described it as figure 2.0. So they want it to be figure girls, but a little bit bigger and a little bit harder. But it's very confusing to a lot of athletes because it seems like most of the physique girls look just like bodybuilders. Mm-hmm. And if not, they're even harder than bodybuilders, like real female bodybuilders that still compete in female bodybuilding to this day.
Yeah.
And like, so where is the line going to be drawn to say this girl that is now in physique needs to be in bodybuilding because she's big enough, she's hard enough. Physique is supposed to be figure girls, still graceful, still pretty muscle. We don't want to look too hard. They want to take, the masculine, aspect out of it and keep the femininity, but still be very muscular. So that's where I have a hard time as an athlete, is just understanding, do I come in bigger and fuller? Do I come in smaller and leaner? Or do I just come in however I want to come in, whatever my body I want to look like? So I love female bodybuilding. You know what I mean? I just don't want to compete in that category. I just think physique is more my speed. But I don't know down the road, because they're telling me now that I'm a little bit too big, which I don't understand because there's girls that are much bigger and harder than me that are racing at shows. So that's where you're just confused. You're like, well, I can be bigger. I have no problems becoming bigger. I can lift heavy. I have no problem putting on the muscle and putting in the work. But now these girls, you're rewarding for being that way. But then when I come in, it's like, you're too big. So it's a lot of confusion. So at the end of the day, I'm like, listen, Katie, just come in the way that you want to come in, however your body wants to respond. Don't do anything drastic and crazy. Still put in the work, follow your plan, and just get on stage and display it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, at least I know that I stuck to my values. I stuck to my morals along the way and didn't compromise that for anybody, and not trying to look like somebody else. I don't want to look like that girl. I don't want to, I want to look like me. I don't want to bring anything other than that. So that's kind of what I told myself after a couple shows where I just got frustrated. And my coach is like, listen, we're just going to do what we want to do. Come in how we want to look, which is still lean and muscular. And, we're still following all those type of, rules or criteria, as they say. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to end up. At the end of the day, it's like, all right, maybe female bodybuilding is for me, which is completely fine. But once you go into that realm, you can't come back to women's physique. They're not going to reward that type of, switch. So I'm like, if I go, it's going to be for good.
How did friends and family react when you first got into bodybuilding? Were they a little bit skeptical, or were they always like super supportive?
Well, my family's always supportive no matter what I do. Any sport that I got in, they were just very, as long as it makes you happy, as long as you're inspiring others, it doesn't really matter. My mom was just like, just don't look like those crazy women, just don't turn into a man. Like, that's what she was saying as my mom, of course. So I'm like, Mom, don't worry. We're going to just be muscular. This is what we like. It just, my muscle came on pretty easy. I wouldn't say easy, a lot of work, but my body responded pretty fast. So they were all very supportive. Living in the house of me dieting is always an issue because, you're low energy. She's got cookies all the time. And last year I was dieting during the holidays. So I missed Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and Valentine's Day. And, so they're like, oh, Katie, don't be a downer, just because you can't eat. And nothing like, what, at that point you just learn to just be quiet. Don't say anything. Just know that this is all for a reason and you're getting to your end goal. So I think after a couple shows, they just got used to it. They'll like hide the cookies away so I don't see them, or they won't invite me out because they're like, we know you can't eat. But I'm like, you know what? I can come out and still sit there and be with you guys. It's not always about food. I can always just be a part of the conversation and be part of what they're doing. So they're good.
Yeah, and when someone makes a comment like that, you can just take the anger out in the next workout too. That'll be motivation and fuel. So one of the things that I always wanted to ask too is, has it been a difficulty finding clothes that fit when you get to a certain height? I mean, shopping. I mean, that's one of the things that most people don't talk about. Has it been a struggle for you, or are there places that make stuff specifically for female bodybuilders? What's that all about?
It's a nightmare, honestly. Because when you diet down and I lose 30 pounds, I can fit in most things. Tops are usually an issue for me, just in general. But when I lose 30 pounds, you can kind of get away with some. But then when I put the weight back on, all the clothes that used to fit you last off season don't fit you this season, because you put on the muscle. When you start to eat and your muscles fill up, you're like, wow, none of this fits anymore. So if it doesn't stretch and if it's not sleeveless, I don't think I can wear it. And I don't know many clothing companies that come out with, clothes for fit women. You know what I mean? So I just stick to workout clothes all the time. A pair of nice jeans you might find that can fit you. But again, it's a struggle getting it over your legs, then it gets up to your waist and it's too loose in your waist because you try to keep a tiny waist. So I kind of gave up on that, honestly. I'll just continue to buy large clothes, extra large sports bras. I'm like, there's no way I'm in an extra large sports bra. That's crazy. But in order to get it over my back and over my chest, it's just, that's what you have to do. I mean,
for any of the audience out there, that's an idea. We're making clothes for fit women. That could be a potential market up. So everyone out there with a good idea, do that for sure. And I just gotta say, if I looked like that, I'm up in Minnesota, I would go sleeveless every day of the week. Even when I'm snow throwing, I would just have my sleeves out and everything in the negative 20 degrees. Absolutely. So it comes to your protein intake. How much protein do you usually eat in a day?
Well, off season, I've actually dabbled more into the keto approach. Mm-hmm. So protein for us is a lot less. But I do have a refeed every week, once a week, that I will up my protein a little bit. But during prep, it's all protein. It's all protein. It's all vegetables. You're lucky if you get carbs here and there, but really it's just protein and vegetables. So I'm probably pushing, I'd say about 1.5 grams per body pound. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at 175. I'm horrible at math. Somewhere over 175, probably closer to 190-ish, I guess, maybe 200. So really, you can have too much protein. It's possible, but you have to eat I'm talking a lot of protein, tons of protein in order for it to be bad for you, quote unquote. But too much of anything is bad for you. Too much milk is bad for you too. So again, balance is where you need to be. Protein, of course, helps you build muscle, but it's finding a balance between it all, and keto has been good for me just because it got me a grip on carbs. I kind of just took them out of my life, which is okay. But I lost a little size because I didn't have the carbs. So if you're trying to put on muscle, carbs play a very important role. So does protein. So do healthy fats. They're all play a great role. But again, it's knowing when to have them, how much to have. Is your training intensity up? Are you using that fuel, or are you just eating that fuel? You got to find the balance. So protein, of course, is always up. It never goes out of style.
And one of the biggest unknown things that you need to have a lot of is water. How much water would you say you go through a day?
So water for me is kind of like sleep. It's one of those things that's really hard for me to get in. And I tell all my clients water is super important. Mm-hmm. I shoot for between 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons a day. Realistically, I'm lucky if I get 1 gallon in. I just have the goal there because I just keep reminding myself that I need to drink it. But I don't like plain water. I don't like the taste of just plain water. Some people do. I don't. I need something in it, whether it's lemon, I'll put some aminos in it just to kind of give it flavor. So I think that's where I run into the issue is I don't like plain water. So I just, it's hard for me to get in. I'll be honest. I know a lot of people struggle with it too, but during my workouts, especially, I focus on getting water in because that's when you need it the most,
One of the things that I like to ask is for tricking your mind. Sometimes when you're eating as much as you're eating, are there simple tips that you use to sort of trick your mind into saying no, I'm not full. I can eat that extra thing of protein.
I'm always hungry. I'm just a hungry person in general. I have the appetite of a truck driver. So really, I can eat all the time. I never turn down food. So that's not the issue for me, and getting the food in is not the problem. It's just prepping it is what drives me nuts. It's very tedious. especially when you're making the same thing every single day. You're like, I don't know how much chicken I can put on the grill. I don't know how much more asparagus I can put in, it gets too much. So at the end of the day, I just tell myself there's a goal. And if you don't eat this, you're not getting to your goal. If you don't get that cardio in, you're not getting to your goal. And you're letting down all these people that are depending on you, all these people that are looking up to you. So that's kind of just what I tell myself. Like, it's a goal.
And I think one of the biggest travesties when we're talking about female bodybuilding or sport in general is the amount of pay that you guys are really receiving is unbelievably not that much at all. For all of the hard work that you guys put into it, all of the effort, people, I think, would assume that you guys are making so much money, but it really isn't. It's really a sport of passion when it comes down to it. Why do you think is the reason behind that, and how do you think that they could change that?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yes, we don't make as much as the men, whether it comes to show winnings, sponsorships. Maybe it has something to do with the female bodybuilding being taken out of the marketplace. Like, they still market it, but it's nothing like it was when it was in the Olympia. So, I mean, I think that's in all sports for women. Women just make less than men. So I'm hoping they can turn it around saying, wow, these women put in just as much work as the men. If not more,
Yeah, I was going to say even more sometimes, just because they start out the men start, if it was a race, the men already start out like 50 meters ahead. So
that's what I'm saying. Just speaking from a hormonal standpoint, like, they're already ahead because they got testosterone flowing around. Like, we don't. And women, we carry a lot of weight in our hips and our legs, because that's physiologically where we're supposed to protect the child during childbirth, all that type of stuff. So I'm hoping down the road they can switch it around, because really, I think people come to these shows to see the women. They want to see good-looking women in bikinis, which I completely understand. So I'm hoping with the turnaround, maybe female bodybuilding taking a little backseat, they'll start to realize, okay, this needs to be fair. And that's all industries, whether it's fitness, whether it's health and wellness, whether, computer graphic, whatever they're going into, women just don't have the same pay. So I don't know. I guess it goes back to way days behind us where women didn't have equal rights and that type of thing. So let's just hope in the future they can balance it out. We all can't be paid like Serena Williams. I mean, that'd be great, but
yeah,
maybe okay.
So going back, I mean, I really think Instagram really inspired the fitness, the bikini division. Do you think that overall the popularity of the bikini division, which has skyrocketed, has been negative or a positive when it comes to bodybuilding? Because it has taken a lot of attention away, I'd say, from more of the physique competitors to more of the bikini girls. What is your opinion on that?
I think bikini's popular because that's the body type that most women go for. They want to look like, Barbie dolls, supermodel with a little bit of muscle on them. And I think bikini is the biggest category. If you go to any show, there's so many bikini competitors, just so many of them. So I get it. That more competitors means more money. I totally understand. On Instagram, again, it's the most popular body type. All girls want to look like that. So they're all going to follow bikini girls. They're all going to follow that. But I mean, it's just funny to me sometimes when they categorize themselves as bodybuilders.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, you are technically building your body. You're building your booty too. So that's fine. We all want nice glutes. Totally cool. But it's just, your training is nothing like my training. You're not doing a fraction of the weight that I have to throw around in order to put on this muscle. And you work hard. Don't get me wrong. You guys diet, you work hard, you do your cardio, but it's their prep, weight will go from 140 to 132. And I'm like, you lost 8 pounds in 16 weeks. Again, it's hard work. I know, but I don't consider that bodybuilding. I don't consider that, hashtag beast mode. That doesn't make sense to me. So for popularity and financial, headway, I think it's good. They keep it around for that reason. Women's physique, female bodybuilding can make muscle look more appealing to where they might want to put on more and they might want to lift heavier and appear a little bit more muscular. That's my hope, in doing what I do, is just to make muscle look good again, make it look like a female is still behind that muscle. So yeah, I mean, they're great people too, great athletes. They work really hard, but it's just, I don't think they can be placed in the same category quite like, female bodybuilding or women's physique or even figure, because, the figure girls definitely throw around some weight too. So, and it's not about how much weight you lift. I'm not saying that either, but you're a bikini competitor and we're bodybuilders. There is a difference and a huge gap in training intensity, style, and all that type of stuff, you know?
I follow a lot of celebrities too on Instagram, and especially a lot of the female ones and a lot of the male ones too. You see their training routines, and they're doing like 5-pound weights. They're doing like these compound things, and they're talking about like how hard it is, and they're like, oh my God, training for movie roles or whatever. And then you're deep down, you're like, no, you're not. That's not the weight that you're using. You're just posting it for Instagram. What is your opinion on that? Because it kind of gives a negative connotation of how much hard work it actually takes to look good for roles that they do, or just to look good in general.
It does. Yeah, I do chuckle to myself when I see that. Actually, the girl that played Tomb Raider was talking about her training for that movie, and I had to put on so much muscle, and it was so much work. And I'm like looking at her in the movie, like, what muscle? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it in your butt? Like, where did the muscle?
She had abs, and that was it, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm like, God, if I was your trainer, I would have got you like twice that size. You know what I mean? So it's funny when they say, I worked so hard, and there's levels to this. I get it. You know, people say they work hard, and then you meet somebody that really does, and you're like, I really wasn't working hard, which is what most people do when they train with me. They're like, wow, I really thought I was training before, but I really was not. And I was blessed with a wonderful coach from the very beginning that trained me like that from the jump. You know, so that's just how I know how to train. And if I don't train like that, I feel like I'm not training. So it's kind of funny, but again, you want to give them credit where it's due, and I'm sure they put in the time and put in the effort. Maybe 5 pounds to her was really heavy. You know, 5 pounds to me is not heavy. So it's just, I guess, depends on who you ask. You know, weight is, you know, different to everybody. But it is pretty funny when you're like, if you could come in the gym with me for one day, you would realize like, wow, like there is definitely huge levels to this. Like we start here, and that's me, you know, 50 pounds to me was heavy once upon a time. I remember the 45-pound plates that you lift up to put on the leg press. I would struggle with those plates, just picking them up and getting them onto the leg press, and they were only 45 pounds. Now I pick them up with one hand and I put them on with one arm. Like it's just a progression. You know what I mean? You become stronger, you become more equipped to deal with those type of things. So it's, you know, good for them, but I think there's always room to grow. You know, there's always ways to push yourself.
I have to ask this. You are renowned throughout the industry. A lot of people say that you have the best arms in all of bodybuilding. What do you do specifically for those arms? Because, I mean, all the guys probably that are watching this right now are like, oh, my God, I want those arms right now. And a lot of the girls probably, too. What do you do specifically for that?
Oh, dear. I was born. That's pretty much where it started. They're just genetics. Truthfully, I had biceps like in the 5th grade. I got teased a lot growing up. You know, girls can't have muscle, girls shouldn't have muscle. So I'd almost hide them. You know, I didn't want people to see them, but it's completely different now. I used to get teased for it. Now I get praised for it. So it's completely different. I don't know. When I started bodybuilding, I didn't know my arms were going to have peaks like they do. I didn't know they were going to grow at the rate that they grew. I just kept lifting. I just kept doing what I thought was going to get me to where I needed to go. If that meant throwing around heavy weight, perfect. But now it's, you know, they've become a little ahead of the game. So my coach tells me we have to take it easy on them. You know, and it's not that I have small shoulders either. It's just my arms are so big that it may take away from my shoulders. So again, this goes back to bodybuilding. We want proportions. We want to be aesthetically pleasing. We want to be symmetrical. So if that means not training my arms heavy for a little while, so be it. But I have a feeling they're going to grow anyway. They have a mind of their own. So I go so heavy with my back and shoulders and chest that they're engaged anyway. So there's no way around it. You know, I'm just going to accept it for what it is and embrace it, you know, not fight it anymore.
Was it hard going from something, like you said, you were kind of, kids would kind of give you a hard time for them growing up, and then as you got older, people were praising you. Was it hard to kind of adjust that? And when you get kind of teased for something and then all of a sudden to get praised for it, was that hard mentally to kind of adjust to that?
It was different.
Yeah.
It was definitely different. To be asked to flex or can we take a picture, I mean, they appreciate it and they see the hard work that went into it. You know, my arms weren't 18 inches in the 5th grade. Mm-hmm. You know, they were maybe 10.
Now that would have been impressive.
Right. Definitely to thank my mom and dad for that one. Yeah. But, you know, they were just a little tiny bit of an arm, you know, nothing crazy. But now it's like they grew to, 18 inches in my off season. And even during my prep, they only go down to about 16 and a half inches. So there are people that are full blown off season that aren't in 16 and a half inches. So it's just one of those body parts that is just, everybody's got their strong points, back and buys are just, my arms are, they're ahead of the game, have to make sure everything else follows.
The closest thing that I can compare to that is that I'm 6'2", but I was 6'2" ever since I was like 15. So I would always get crap for that when I was growing up. But now that I got older, now all the girls, they like guys that are like 6'2". So they're like, oh my God, I love that. So that's the closest thing I can compare to that, where I was like, yeah, it is kind of an adjustment when you're like, oh, I'm used to kind of being called stretch and freak or whatever. So now it's a lot easier. But one of the things that I've found out too, ever since I started like serious lifting and I've gotten a little bit bigger, is that people all the time ask me to like help them move their furniture. They ask them to like help me open pickle jars. Has that been something for you, an experience that you've had where all of a sudden people are like, Katie, I'm moving, I need someone to help me with my couch, or I need someone to help open this pickle jar? What has that been like for you?
All the time. I mean, groceries, Katie's got it, don't worry. It's heavy up there. Or I'm pretty tall too, I'm 5'8", so I wouldn't say that's tall, but I'm not short either. So if it's on a high shelf, they're like, can you grab that for me? Or, and I don't mind. Like, I am strong enough to pick it up. I am strong enough to open the jar for my mom when she can't, so it kind of makes you feel good because you can put it to use. You can actually use your strength, not just for show, which is what I tell a lot of people. I'm like, this is just for show, because they're like, let me arm wrestle you. And I'm like, no, this is just for show. Like, I don't use these muscles really for anything, but, just for show. But it's kind of cool. I mean, I guess you put it to use.
I used to work at Amazon, so then all packages that were over 60 pounds, they'd call me muscles, so then they'd say, get muscles over there. So yeah, that really, after a while, that really kind of got to a bore, because I would just get way too sore. But it's definitely one of the positive things I'd say is that, I mean, you do get a lot more recognition, which is great. So now we go to our audience favorite part, the questionnaire part that I like to ask towards the end, where it's more of a getting to know you kind of thing, where I'll ask you, I think it's about a dozen or so questions. But for our first question is, what is your go-to workout song?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm a heavy metal person when I work out. I like, Slipknot's always been my favorite go-to band, I guess you could say, not a particular song. But I'm more of their old school type of setup. Slipknot, their Wait and Bleed, their Purity. Hatebreed's a good one. That's just pump up music to me. Like, it just gets me going. Some people have their different styles, but I'd say heavy metal, little Slipknot in the background always goes a long way.
I'm not going to try to get you way too excited, but I have been talking to them about potentially coming on, and they have said that maybe in October, that if they have a date available, and they said that they marked it on their calendar, that they'd come on the podcast and talk about themselves.
Stop. That would be amazing.
I will send you a link to that if that for sure happens. Yeah, I am super excited about that. Me personally, I love Metallica. That's my go-to. I'm also a metal guy when it comes to, but it's hard. I love to time down the beat. Like when I'm doing curls or lat pull downs, you got to time down the beat perfectly so that you get the proper benefit. So if there was a celebrity that you could train with, who would you train with?
Oh gosh. I mean, The Rock. I'd love to train with. It's funny, I picked a guy, right?
Oh no, he's our most popular answer by far.
Yeah, definitely The Rock. He would be awesome. Linda Murray, she's an old school, female bodybuilder. She's amazing. She's a legend. I would love to train with her, take pointers from her. I follow her on Instagram. She embodied female bodybuilding in the way that it should have been. I wish they would have kept that particular look and carried that on through the years. But I'd say female, Linda Murray, male, The Rock.
We had one say Ellen DeGeneres, and I said, no, it would be way too funny because she'd make you laugh the entire workout. You wouldn't be able to get a workout in. It's not possible.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be on the same page as far as training style.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. That too. And plus The Rock, I looked at his workout. I mean, he eats like 3 pounds of asparagus a day, and I was like, I don't know if I can put that up. But he trains with his work schedule. The fact that he's able to get in those workouts, it's unbelievable. I don't get how he does it, but it's those guys. They're so dedicated. Those are the people that wake up like at 3 a.m. to work out, and then they go and work and I don't know. More power to him. I have no idea how he does it, but that's just who he is. Now, if you could train a celebrity, though, who would you train?
Oh gosh, train a celebrity. I don't know. I'd like to take maybe like one of the female stars, movie stars, and kind of put them through a workout. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of the Kardashians. I feel like that would be fun.
My God. I would pay so much money to see that. That would be the greatest show ever. If you put them through like an actual 4-month program. Yeah, that would be great.
Just to see them, because they do work out. Don't get me wrong. But I would love to just kind of make them throw up during a workout or something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. What was the last show that you binge watched?
I don't do a lot of TV. I don't have time for it. I don't have time to just sit and watch shows after shows after shows. I'm a big sports fan, so any sports that are on TV, I always tune into. So it's difficult in between football season and basketball season. Now I just not a lot that I would watch on TV. I don't know. Like I said, I don't do a lot of binge watching.
Are you a Ravens fan?
I am a Ravens
Yep.
fan, yeah. Absolutely. So I do, I think sports, that's just it for me. I watch a lot of sports. I don't, The Walking Dead, I was kind of watching for a little while, got into it, but then I'm just in the gym all the time. I'm working, I'm in the gym, I'm cooking. I just don't have time to sit in front of a TV. I wish I did, but I don't.
Have you ever thought about maybe like putting a bed in the gym that you could just sleep in then, so to kind of like help you both ways? I've had people that have like, one person owned a gym and then he said he just had his bed in the back. Yeah, for whenever he'd go into prep, he just lived there for like the 4 months. He just made like his little like house back there, and I was like, hey, if that works, I guess. Which is
That's incredible.
So
Very smart, actually.
yeah, exactly. What is one thing that you always need in your fridge at all times?
Fridge. Eggs. I need eggs all the time. I eat them. It's just always a meal that I never get sick of. You know, I can kind of tweak it, put some different things inside the omelet, make it a little more exciting, I guess.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, geez. Probably be to read people's minds.
Yeah, I think about that, but then I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'd like what I'd find for most people just to think about. But yeah, that would be an interesting thing to do. What is your spirit animal?
Spirit, these are good questions. I don't know. I'd probably be a polar bear. I don't know. I feel like they're just powerful but kind of gentle too at the same time. And I love the snow, so I wouldn't mind being in the cold all the time. And they're kind of like fluffy too, so I like fluffiness. I have to, since I know this fact, I've read about it though, I have to acknowledge that polar bears are the most dangerous bear on the planet when it comes to humans because they don't see us as much, so they will attack you if they see you. So if you see a polar bear out in the wild, run. Or for other type of polar bears, or for other type of bears, you play dead. But polar bears, run. The thing will catch you and it will probably eat you, but at least you'll have an extra like 30 seconds to live, I guess. Yeah, that's about as good as I can. That's about as good as I can put it. So, what would be one thing that people would be surprised about when they meet you in person, as opposed to someone who's like followed you for a long time? The one thing I get a lot is how down to earth I am. They think when they meet me, I might be, have this diva mentality, or think that I'm better than them, or just not have time for them or something. But I literally try to stop and talk to every single person if I can, unless I'm competing and then I have to be prejudging or I have to be somewhere. But, expos and stuff, they're like, wow, like you're so nice. Like I didn't think you'd be this nice and down to earth and talkative. And, I'm like, listen, I'm from a small town in Germantown, Maryland. Like I don't come from these crazy, popular cities, I guess, if you want to say. And I'll never forget like where I came from. Like I'll never forget where I was and where I am now. And I'll never forget the people that helped me get there. So some people will just, oh, who's that? I forgot about them. They don't matter anymore. Now I'm here. And I don't ever want that to be said about me, like when I exit the game. What is one thing that you find funny that no one else does? When I laugh at my own jokes. Yeah. They're laughing at my own jokes. I'm like, I guess they don't get it because my sense of humor is pretty different than I guess most people. I'm very sarcastic. So there's always truth to my sarcasm, but I'd say that I just laugh at my own jokes, and I'm like, "What? You don't find that funny?" Like, well, if you don't laugh at your joke, who else will? Yeah. Okay, we got 3 questions here on the questionnaire left. What is your life's motto? That's a really good one. I don't know. A lot of them are hashtags, actually. If you guys follow me, and they're my hashtags I come up with. I like redefine the grind. It's a popular for me. And practice makes permanent. Absolutely. That's a great one. So this is a double-edged question. It's going to involve 2 answers, but what historical figure, if you could did lunch with any historical figure, would you have lunch with and have a conversation with? And if there was a certain event in time, like if time travel were possible and there was a certain event that you could go back and witness out of any event in history, what event would you choose? I hate history, right? I told you that. Let's see. Historical figure. I mean, I think a guy or girl doesn't have to be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I guess the guy, I'd like Martin Luther King would be really cool. Kind of sit down and chat with. I'm sure he's got tons of stories and amazing, knowledge to share. And an event. Wow, it's another tough one. Maybe like the very first Olympia. Yeah, that would be cool to witness, like the very first one. Like first competitors, first judges, first everything, just to kind of see where it all started and where it is now and where we went wrong somewhere in the middle of this. Like, why can't we go back to that?
Exactly. So now, what is? Oh, I gotta say my answer. I picked the most popular answer and just say Jesus to go and talk to back to, just because that would be the most interesting just to talk. And I would want to witness Titanic, the ship, when it crashed and see. I mean, I feel bad because I'd be letting all those people die, but for historical purposes, you can't change the past. So I'd say sorry. It's your time. It's your time. But I think that would be really cool if you could view from a distance and not impact anything, just to watch that. That would be one of the things that I would for sure enjoy. And then, what was your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Oh gosh, I've never even thought about these type of questions. Least favorite, maybe bell bottoms. Never in a bell bottom. Never liked the way they looked. Just not my thing. Maybe. And what was the other one?
Most favorite fashion trend of all time.
Favorite. Ooh. When workout clothes became popular.
Yeah.
Because that's all I fit in.
Yeah.
When workout clothes, or I guess yoga pants, that might be what they call it. When yoga pants made their trend, or set their trend, I was like, yes, I can wear them all the time and not be judged. Yoga pants all day.
I will say one thing, on unpopular opinion. If you have a kid that's 6 or 7 years old, though, don't have them wear yoga pants. I mean, come on, that's too young. I was like, come on. When I see some kids walking down the street in yoga pants, I was like, come on, really? Just give it 4 or 5 more years, then you'll be fine. But yeah, that's just my one thing. But we have one final question then on the questionnaire thing. What is one habit that you wish that you could break?
I would say the amount of coffee that I drink. It's a pretty bad habit. And I'm not I'm a Starbucks nut. So I'm the one paying $5 for a latte when I could easily make it at home for 99 cents. But it's just not the same. If it doesn't come from Starbucks, I feel like it doesn't taste the same. So I'm a coffee fiend. I've got a triple espresso in the morning. I probably have a triple espresso in the evening. And they're like, how do you sleep? And I'm like, I'm the type of person, I could drink coffee and go to sleep 20 minutes after. That's how bad the coffee, I guess, addiction is. I could literally drink it all day long and I'm not phased one bit. So I'd probably say coffee. I need to maybe cut down a little bit.
So now, as a trainer perspective, I just have a few final questions here. From coming as when you're training clients, there's always that myth that we've kind of touched on a few times here, is that women always have that fear when they touch a weight. Oh my God, I'm going to turn into The Rock, basically just by touching one dumbbell. I don't want to do that. I mean, it has gotten a lot better, I'd say, at least, especially in the last 5 years with Instagram, where it's shown figure girls, obviously they don't look like The Rock or whatever, and they work out super hard too. But what do you tell people when they say oh my God, I don't want to look like The Rock or whatever, or I don't want to become huge and bulky by touching a weight? What is your response?
I tell them it takes a lot of time, and I put it to them like this: you're holding 5s, I'm holding 50s. That, and I'm still trying to put on muscle. That's the difference in what you're doing and what I'm doing. Your genetics are completely different than my genetics. You know what I mean? 5 pounds are not going to give you 18-inch arms, because if 5 pounds gave you 18-inch arms, trust me, my life would have been so much easier.
Oh, and you'd have 40-inch arms by then for sure, yeah.
So I'm there's so many levels to this. You're starting at the very, very, basic level. You have so much more growth to do. And trust me, putting on muscle is way harder than you ever think or ever could imagine. Especially for females, you have to work almost twice as hard. So I'm trust me, the 5 pounds, oh, I don't want to look like you. And I look at them and say, you can't.
Exactly.
You can't. Trust me. If you can get yourself to look like me with 5-pound weights, I will pay you. I will pay you. Yep. We can reverse the roles. I'll start paying you monthly for the training and diet, all that type of stuff. So I'm trust me, you can't. It's impossible. Same with Arnold. He's if people could look like me, then they can't. It's impossible. To train the way you train and look like me.
I just want to give a shout out, Arnold and Sylvester Stallone. When you still see him, especially Sylvester Stallone at the age of 75, I have no idea how he does it. I mean, that's just insane. But when you have clients also coming up to you, what would you say, especially for this current generation of people and the aging population that is getting a little bit more unhealthy, obesity is rising, what would you say is the biggest preventer that most people have when it comes to adapting a more healthy lifestyle?
It's probably their motivation. I feel like they don't have a real purpose for doing it. and they just feel lost. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to have, when to have it. And I don't want to give my clients diets necessarily, quote unquote. I want to give them healthier eating habits. So I want it to be a habit. I want you to have it instilled in you to the point where if you don't train with me a month from now, or I don't give you a program a month from now, you can still go to a restaurant and be able to order something healthy. You can still go to the grocery store and be able to pick out items that are healthy for you. So I really stress just the habitual, strengths and weaknesses that they're going to have. Like, they need to understand that this is a lifestyle, and you don't have to diet. The word diet, I think, is just a turnoff to a lot of people. They're like, I don't want to diet the rest of my life. No, but you do have to eat healthy. That's the end of the story. So just giving them the education, the resources, the tools to be able to go in the grocery store and understand, like, I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat stuff with additives and preservatives. I eat fresh, fruits, fresh veggies, fresh proteins. Don't dabble in the box stuff that's got, all the crap in it. Just stay away from it. I don't believe it if it fits your macros. I'm sorry. You cannot tell me that what I get from oatmeal is the same nutritional value as what I'm going to get from a Pop-Tart. Come on, guys. Like, let's just get it together. That's just unreal.
Absolutely. So what's the future looking like for you? Are you preparing for any competitions coming up? What are you up to now?
Oh, well, I'm preparing for life. That's a daily thing. But I'm trying to grow my business, of course. Katie Lee, I'm trying to grow as I kind of go in farther into the industry. But my one main goal was to make it to the Olympia at least once. So I came very close 2 years in a row, placing second at 2 pro shows, almost got the qualification. So we're hoping 2019, my prep will start around November. We're going to hit shows pretty early in the year again. And I hope next year's my year, just to get to the Olympia. And that was the goal that me and my coach set out to do. So I have to keep going until I reach that goal. And then after that, I can start dabbling in just other avenues with my brand. I want to do corporate wellness. I want to do a lot of work with kids, teaching them proper exercise, healthy eating habits, and just, I don't know, hopefully change the world. Just get them to know that muscle is okay and eating healthy is, not as hard as long as you have proper education.
Yeah. And you mentioned your business. Where can people find your business if they wanted to get a hold of you?
For sure. So my Instagram, as you all hopefully know, klee024. And then my website, kayleemade.com. And Facebook, I'm under Katie Lee Physique Athlete. Got a page there too. So we're just trying to grow, educate people and get them to understand Katie Lee Made and all the different avenues we're going to go down. Music, I want to get into too. A lot of that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, then I'll recommend some of these podcasts that I have too with these up and coming bands. But lastly, I'd like to ask 2 final questions before we wrap it up here. If someone were to walk up to you on the street and say, obviously, wow, you look amazing. I want to get into sort of the bodybuilding lifestyle too. What would be the best piece of advice that you could give them in order for them to have a successful fitness lifestyle?
I would say, as long as you have the ability to work hard at one particular thing, you'll be able to conquer anything. I feel a lot of people want the easy way out, or they want a shortcut. They want some magic pill to take. It's going to make them ripped and big. And it doesn't happen that way. And that is why I love fitness. It is such a dedicated sport to where you have to go through the motions. Nobody can go through them for you. So I would say just get in the habit of working hard, and if you work hard in fitness, trust me, it will spill into every area of your life. You will become more disciplined in so many other areas of your life. Your sleep, you'll become more disciplined in. Eating, you'll become, your relationships at home, you understand what it takes to get what you want. So you're going to have to be disciplined. You're going to have to work hard, put in your effort, the time, all that good stuff. So just get in the habit of working hard and understanding that it's not going to come unless you do.
And lastly, if you could talk to your 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
I would say just don't hang with the wrong people. If they don't bring out the best in you, if they're not pushing you towards betterment, just don't bother with them. And if you have to be alone for a little while to figure that out, don't be afraid to be alone. I've done most of my growth and development being alone. There's so many preps I went through where it was every day on the stairs by myself, every day cooking food by myself, every day in the gym by myself. It was a blessing in disguise because I grew a lot within myself. I realized how much strength I did have. You just had to dig a little deeper. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say. Just don't be afraid to be alone.
Well, I mean, I can't thank you enough for coming on this show, Katie. I mean, to be honest, I've been following you for many, many years, ever since I was in college and I got started lifting. You were one of my inspirations. And honestly, yes, and probably I'd say like 2014 when you started. But I've been following you. So it's been an absolute honor having you on the show and talking to you about bodybuilding. I've always been a fan of female bodybuilding. You guys don't get nearly as much credit as you guys deserve. I mean, it's such a hard and demanding sport, and you guys go through so much. And just to even get an ounce of recognition, I mean, more of recognition, I'm more than happy to give you. And thanks again for coming on. Again, you can find her at her Instagram account and all of her websites. We'll leave all the links to all that stuff down below. Katie, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up here?
Oh, just thank all the fans, followers for the support, especially you. I mean, I didn't even know you were following me that long. Thank you. I mean, you guys are really what keeps me going, you know, knowing so many people are watching me and they believe in me, and truthfully, there's so much more to come from me. I'm just getting started. My birthday's the 12th of September, so a lot of good things ahead for me, 2019.
Well, happy early birthday. I'd like to say that. And yeah, I mean, we're more than happy to have you on. And if you have anything else, if you got any other new stuff, let me know, and I'll definitely leave links down below. I'll announce it. We're more than happy to help you out. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the Spot, signing out. Have a great night, everyone.